Greetings, teachers. At the beginning of the year, a few of you reached out to me about the possibility of investing in some new globes for your classrooms. And when I say globes, I mean singular. I did some research around looking around what kinds of globes, new and classic maybe, are out there. So anyway, that led me to a little bit of a globe adventure. And something that I came across was the possibility of inflatable globes. I have here with me today a few of those different kinds that I'd like to share with you in this way, just to talk about some of their pros and cons, and so that you can give me a sense of globes that you might be interested in trying out in your classroom this year. The first is the most standard globe. You'll see that this is a pretty small globe. I believe that this is a 12-inch diameter globe, so pretty small, and you can probably tell that the language, the wording on it is pretty small too. This is going to be tough for kindergarten and even grade 1 kids to read anything beyond the continent names and the ocean names. The nations are capital, all caps, so they can be picked out a little more easily, as well as the continent names. And that might be all that you really feel like you need. What's a benefit to these is that we can get a lot of these at cost. So in other words, I bought 40 of these globes for a very modest price, so that potentially students could be working in pairs or even independently, examining the globe, labeling certain spots with either masking tape labels, or some other form that we might want to consider and explore. At any rate, we have lots and lots of these, like sort of class sets of these little globes, right? That's going to bring our attention to our next type of globe. Now, I've gone from the smallest to the largest globe that I purchased. This is a 44-inch diameter globe. It is obviously quite large, so kids from even middle or back of the room might actually be able to read some of the labeling that you are pointing out, whether it's the continents, again in nice big capital letters, countries also in large capital letters, or the capitals. And that is a nice feature about this particular globe. Each of these this particular globe has capitals of all the countries that are labeled, but also has broken down the United States into its states, which I know is significant for grade 1 performance expectations in terms of understanding cities or capitals to states, which are a part of countries, which are a larger part of continents and the world. They've also labeled the states or territories of Canada to give you a sense that, oh, states also exist in other countries, but have not gone any further with any other countries to do that. But again, some major, all capitals labeled, along with some major population points across the world. And yeah, they've got some labeling around times and different times of the day depending on different parts of the world. Latitude and longitude is also fairly well labeled. Now you're probably wondering, Sean, this is great, but what the heck am I going to do with this in my classroom? Where am I going to keep this behemoth of an inflatable balloon? All right. So one thought that I have that might create some space or some accessibility to a globe like this is to actually hook it to a wall. So whether you put that hook medium or high up on a wall, and then we would use something like a rubber band or string attached to the inflatable point on that globe. You could use this globe for your demonstration purposes. You can pass it around, have kids interact with it, and then when it's done, kind of hang it on a wall as such where it would be at least modestly out of the way. I'm not going to pretend that a 44-inch globe is not going to take up a bunch of airspace in your room, which is why I've also got a few other globes here. So we'll move on to our next globes. This globe is a smaller version of the globe you just saw. It's a 27-inch in diameter. it has, again, it has countries, major cities. It actually has more cities labeled than the last globe we have. It's got some different kinds of fonts for the continents, which are not as easily readable as maybe the last one we saw, but it does have a better, it demonstrates some better geographic features, like along with the oceans, it also shows some major rivers that are located on different continents, and in our country specifically, it's sort of increased the amount of labeling there. So this is a smaller version. It does not have the states drawn on them like we see here, or at least we saw previously. But again, it's smaller. It might be more fitting, particularly if you're gonna want something that you can pass around to kids and they can sort of move around and hold. That 44-incher might be a little too much for little hands. And then the last one, which I found most curious of all, is the sort of DIY globe. So this globe is also 27 inches, and you'll notice that it's colored to match, to separate the different continents of our planet, but that's about it. And I am intrigued by this globe, particularly for classrooms that are exploring their students' cultures and where they come from, sort of that family history. I'm thinking the grade 2 immigration aspects of your social studies curriculum, and how this globe might actually be a more interactive sort of classroom built globe, where after students participate in some sort of report or oral reporting about their family's experience, they would locate them on this globe and they would actually be able to add them to this globe. And you see some ways that I did that here in this map. So, from a United States standpoint, right, we can use markers to explicitly outline, which is a little tougher, obviously, when we have, when we just have sort of like a blank canvas continent, which is why I think one of the things that we'd be looking at including in providing you a globe like this would be cutouts of regions that are, again, roughly to the scale that is on the map. Again, maps and globes, as you know, maps become distorted at any sort of distance. So what we'd end up probably putting together, what I would put together for you would be a Google Slides of many different regions and countries of our planet, that when you needed a specific country, you would print that page out and it would be designed specifically to be able to be cut by a student and pasted onto this globe. It can then be labeled as such. You can see that I've added some special coloring around the flags of those different ones. That might just be something that you include besides an outline, for example, of a country. You'd have the student label that, and then you might also cut out that country's flag. Maybe you might cut out an artifact or a specific location, sort of like a picture of a well-known location in that world, or even a place that's important to that particular family, that student's family, and their home and their community. So, this is an interesting path to take. In some ways, I think it's one that you would want to use in conjunction with either another globe and certainly maps. Maps still play a big role in, of course, probably the most critical role in what we're trying to do when we investigate the geography of our world. So, those are my globes, right? One more time. So, for request purposes from this email, if you're interested in 1 or 10 or an entire class set of these globes, I'm going to refer to these as the small globes or globe A. If you're looking for the giant globe, I purchased 5 of these for us to explore and pilot. This is globe B. The smaller political map version, the 27 inch, is globe C. And then the do-it-yourself DIY globe D can be requested from me with just a response to an email and this video that I'm sharing with you. Please let me know if this is at all useful or not. If you'd prefer me to continue down the more traditional path with your classroom around the metal globes with stands, that's certainly something that's a possibility. It's not my interest to dictate to you what you need for your class, but I did think that these inflatable globes might provide a more interactive experience than we've traditionally had with globes in our classrooms. Looking forward to hearing from you. Have a great day.